Okay, we're good to go.
Hi guys, welcome from sunny Mumbai. I am Manoj Motwani and we are here to have a session with Captain Vinod Nair. Captain Nair is an ex-army commando. He's a motivational life coach since 30 years and a practicing yogi. He served in Kashmir during the Kargil war, and during his 30-year career, he must have coached over 600,000 individuals. So without further ado, I'm going to get Vinod on board. Hi, Vinod.
Hey, Manoj. Namaste.
So how's it in Vancouver? We woke you up very early, looks like today.
I usually wake up at 4 and right now it's 4:38. So we're good.
Okay. So I was a little, when I saw the time difference, I was like, but then I said, yogi, army, ex-army man, so it's all acceptable, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So basically the topic today that we wanted to talk to you about was something which actually I got interested when I heard one of your talks a few years back. You were giving a short talk on Shiv Puran and how it refers to quantum physics. And I was blown. I was completely blown out of my mind. Got me to do a little bit more research and I've been doing work on it. And that's how I got interested in Shiva. I came to Shiva from quantum physics and physics. I didn't come in from spirituality. So different route chosen, but all to the good, I guess.
True, true.
So I think we can start with something that I've heard you speak on and off, the difference between Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism. Hinduism as it's practiced today and ancient Sanatana Dharma. Maybe you can just talk a little on that, then we can go into specifics with the Shiv Puran and everything.
Sure, sure. I think, Manoj, you've struck on a very, very important thing, because Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma are almost completely different. They're very often mixed for each other, interchanged. The Hinduism of today that we see is not even similar in many aspects to Sanatana Dharma, which started out maybe about 10 to 12,000 years ago, maybe more than that. The differences are not just in religion or views or spirituality, it's also in quantum physics, it's also in principles and everything else. So I think, yeah, that would be the best place to start from. If you even pursue the discussion further up into the conceptual difference in Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism, even the concept of God is different, because again, there's a lot of physics and maths to it, and there's a lot of culture in the other. So if we go into the history, here's what happened. About, say, 15 to 20,000 years back, there was this civilization that existed in a little capsule on its own, and that was the Indian subcontinent. Okay, it was protected by the ocean on three sides, and it was protected by the mountains on the top, the whole Afghan, Pir Panjal and Khyber and all those mountain ranges. There's many, many rugged ranges there. So this civilization kind of, it thrived. It was safe, it was good, it had fertile crop, it thrived. And while many other civilizations focused on war or on aggression, this civilization focused on culture. So it went into things like science. If you look at ancient Indian astrology, you'll find that we always knew that the sun was the center and the earth went around. Pluto was never counted in our astrology. Strange, right? It's taken till what, 2018 or 2017 to remove Pluto for us. So we've known
to demote Pluto, I would say.
Sorry?
I said to demote Pluto.
Yeah, we've clearly known a lot of things. When you read the Shiv Purans, like the way you got pulled in because of that session you attended where I spoke, I got pulled in for a variety of my own reasons. And somewhere down the line, I realized that I'm not getting satisfied with the interpretations, with the translations that
Mhm.
I was hearing locally. So I took it upon myself to learn Sanskrit. And I started studying. And when I started studying, I found that there were a lot of differences between what we read, what we are told, and what we understand. Um, there's cultural differences also that have come in. If you take, for example, say in English, a simple word like vulgar. The word vulgar today kind of denotes obscenity or unacceptable crudeness or sexuality.
Okay.
Whereas vulgar just a few years back didn't mean any of this. It meant common. So if you are on a Zoom call,
Yeah.
that's a vulgar call. Right. So a lot of the translations we are reading of our Puranas today are not valid because they were translated by people in a different environment with a different set of realities and a different language. For example, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, you read Mahabharata, there are at least 100 places in that where they say so and so got angry and cursed so and so. And this never made sense to me. I mean, how do you just curse someone? And even if the curse is debatable, it's valid, and then a god loses power. That just didn't make any sense to me. So when I started my own translations and readings, what I found is that the word curse we use so much is actually a translation of shrap. And shrap is
Yeah.
not translated as curse at all. It actually means judgment. Okay, so wherever it's mentioned that so and so gave a shrap or a curse, what it actually means is that there was a discussion, there was a debate, and at the end of the debate, there was a judgment passed that you have done wrong, therefore, this is your judgment. You see the difference between what I'm
Okay,
talking
makes a lot of sense because it seems like fathers cursing their son or daughter doesn't make sense, but a father or a mother passing judgment on their children makes a lot of sense, imminent sense. Yeah,
about.
never thought
Also,
of it.
yeah, a simple thing like Shiva opens his eye and Kamdev gets burnt. So Kamdev's wife comes and curses
Hmm.
Parvati. So I'm like, how can you go and curse Parvati? That makes no sense. I can't wrap my head around that. But then when you think about it, there is a crime that has happened, there's an investigation. At the end of the investigation, there are conclusions, and based on that, there's a judgment which says, okay, Parvati, you did this, 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 therefore, this. You are now denied the right to have a son or a daughter, blah, blah, blah. So it makes sense when you talk as a process which reaches a rational conclusion, which you may not culturally agree with because culturally they were different, but there's a rational process.
Hmm.
You can take a simple word like,
Makes sense.
see, I'm probably going to cause a lot of debate by saying what I'm about to say, but I believe in it strongly, so I'm going to stand by it. Now, when you look at pictures of Shiva, all the pictures show a fountain coming out of his head. What is that fountain? We all know it is Ganga.
Young.
And Ganga is Parvati's sister, and it flows out of his head. Why does it flow out of his head? Because if it falls on the earth, the uh, gush will
They
be
are
too strong, blah, blah, blah. Now, to me, that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense because when you read the Shiv Purans, we are talking about the Big Bang, we are talking about dark energy, we are talking about the beginning of the universe, we are talking about immutables that exist in the universe. We talk about truth and reality and perception, and suddenly we are talking about a small river, and the water force is so hard that God has to sit on it. It just sounds disproportionate. However, when you sit down and read the Sanskrit text, then you say, wait a minute, this is not Ganga the river. This is Akash Ganga,
Okay,
Milky Way.
then it
So
makes sense.
it makes perfect sense because if there's dark energy, there's dark matter, there's black holes, we're talking about planets like Rahu and Ketu are virtual planets. They're not physically visible to us. We are talking about deep science here.
Yeah.
So
Then
in
Akash Ganga makes a lot of sense.
Akash Ganga makes perfect sense. So yes, there are differences. And now, if coming to your previous question, sorry, this topic is so huge, I can ramble for hours and hours.
I'm
Uh,
loving it. I hope you're like it.
yes. So coming to your previous question, so there was this civilization that existed and it flourished. So it flourished in art and science. So we had Kama Sutra for sex, we had Shusrata Samhita for surgeries, we have Ayurveda, we've got Sattvic diet, we've got Agamas, which talk about architecture, we've got Mahabharata, Shiv Purans, we've got hundreds of these books, right? None of these books talk about good or bad, right or wrong. They're all at a
They
much,
let you decide.
yes, they're at a so much more and a deeper level that they exist. They're more of just aligning your compass. And then you use your compass to go in the direction you want. So there's a lot of wonderful things there. Okay.
It's your personal right and wrong.
I'm sorry?
I mean, it's personal. It's always your personal right and wrong. It's not. It's not about absolutes.
Yes.
So you, it could be that there is some place where something is right, but it's right because it's more right than the other option. But it might not be the right. It might not be the right option. I don't think I put it well, but
Speaking
it
of
could be.
right and wrong and truth, I've been a follower of Swami Vivekananda since I was probably 15 or 16, and
Mhm.
read and devoured his all his works. So in one of his books, he wrote many years back, he wrote, "The only reality in the universe is the truth." So I think I was 17 when I read that, and I grappled with that sentence for a long time. The only reality in the universe is the truth. But now at 52, when I'm looking back, I find that there's more than one truth. There are
Yeah.
several truths that
Your
coexist.
truth and my truth and his truth and her truth. So it's all going to be different.
Yeah, and there's no saying whose truth is correct.
It's your
Which is
perception, basically, from
yes,
your point of view.
totally. Which is what Sanatan Dharma is all about. It's all about diversity. It's allowing for people to grow. There's a lot of, and again, when we talk about that culture that flourished with yoga and Ayurveda and everything, there was no name for it. Okay, it's like today you are living in Khar in Bombay and you have a certain lifestyle. Your neighbor probably doesn't follow your belief system. Your diet is probably different from someone who stays on another lane
I
nearby.
don't know.
But all of you together
It
form
could be
Bombay.
different from family.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally different. All of you together form Mumbai or Bombay, and you can't call Bombay as a religion. You can call it a
It
way
is
of
a
life. You can
religion.
call it
Bombay
coexistence.
makes Bombay, so you know.
Yeah,
Bombay is a religion. It is a religion.
it is a religion. So if that's your point of view, then okay, Hinduism will be a religion according to that definition. But for me, that's not the definition of a religion at all. The way it works for me is that back in those days, people there had a lifestyle exactly like you have a lifestyle where you are, and I have a lifestyle where I am here in Vancouver, right? So about I think
No.
5,000 to 6,000 years back, the first explorers started crossing the mountains and coming over into India. 5,000 years ago, we had Takshila, the oldest university in the world, teaching more than I think a few thousand students and over 260 or 70 subjects. And they
Yeah,
came
I've heard
across,
of that. Yeah.
yes, they came across, they were fascinated, and there was trade and there was exchange. However, the real invaders started coming in a few thousand years back. And when
Yeah.
they started coming in, they suddenly walked into a culture which had not been invaded for thousands of years. And they walked in and saw all these phenomenal temples and structures and carvings and paintings. And They saw science that you can't imagine. We are talking about surgeries and anesthesia. We are talking about astronomy and following the stars and knowing when sunsets are and what gravity is and all of these things. And it blew their mind. But they couldn't relate to it from their culture.
Yep.
So they started relating to everything in the way that they could understand. So they started slicing everything into good and bad. Whereas in our culture, if you look at Hinduism, Sanskrit as a language did not have a word for the word sin at all. Pap is
Yeah.
a word which has come
There is
in.
no sin.
Yeah, pap has come in only a few thousand years back because for us in Hinduism or in Sanatan Dharma, sorry, let me correct that. In Sanatan Dharma, we do not believe in judgment. We don't believe in right, wrong, good, bad. We believe in taking everything in a context. Okay. So if I am to,
Karma,
sorry?
sort of. It's about karma. You
Yes, it's purely about karma. Now, again, coming to the difference between Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma, I'm still on Sanatan Dharma. We'll come to Hinduism later. So we don't believe in right, wrong, good, bad. It's all contextual. It's all very, very rational. We also don't feel the need to believe or have faith. You know how people say, have faith, it'll all work out. That
hmm.
is not required in Sanatan Dharma at all because we follow karma. And what is karma? Karma is not some hot chick in a black dress that's going to come and kick your ass, though I'm sure a lot of people would like that. But karma simply means consequence. So anything you do, think, or say is going to have consequence. So think, speak, and act in a way that you're willing to embrace the consequence. There is no right or wrong. There is no good karma or bad karma. I mean, that's it's, sometimes it staggers the mind. So anyway, this was traditional Sanatan Dharma. Our relationship with our temples was again very scientific. If you look at a temple, it's very different from um, places of worship from other cultures. In other cultures, normally you have a rectangular shape, which is at a height, maybe three, four,
Yeah.
five floors. And the
Hmm.
cornermost is where the deity sits. And the deity normally has their back to the
Yep.
wall, just like an ancient king would,
Yep.
so that no one can come and stab him from behind or attack
Yep.
him. And he always had people on the right
Yeah.
and left to protect him. Naturally, that's
Hmm.
how chieftains were. But if you go to
Hmm.
an ancient Indian temple, it's a completely different concept. All ancient Indian temples, especially South India, are pyramids. They're all four-sided pyramids. The deity is
Energy
always
center.
the deity is always in the center, the sanctum sanctorum, right? The pyramids,
Yep.
besides having their effect, they also bounce sound. Okay, so
Yeah.
you come to a temple not to sit and pray like, God, please help me pass this exam. I'll break 5 coconuts. And Ganpati's never seen coconuts. So he's like, fuck yeah, this guy, we've got a deal. I'll pass you, send me some coconuts. Because I can't get coconuts for myself. I need you to do that. But that's not the original concept. The original concept is that you come to the temple when the temple bells are ringing, when the mantras are being chanted, it causes a certain energy, and you sit in that energy field. If you're a South Indian like myself, my dad and mom had this practice right from childhood, which we still follow. When you go to a temple, you don't just go there, do namaste, and come out. You have to sit, and you have to sit a minimum 20 minutes in Padmasana and come out. Of course, that 20 minutes is now down to sometimes much
Hmm.
less, but ideally, you need 20 minutes in Padmasana with an erect spine for you to get charged up. That's what our concept was. There was absolutely no concept of people charging money to come and see a statue and touch the foot and get pushed off or anything. Yes. So
Darshan actually has a different Darshan has a different concept in
totally.
ancient times from what it is now.
Totally. I mean, look at the word you used, darshan. Darshan simply means a viewing. Like you are in the person's energy field. So when you are in that energy
Yep.
field,
Not
you
just looking.
yes, you have been viewed. That means you have been touched. The energy has come and touched you. And you say, okay, mera darshan ho gaya. I'm feeling blessed. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So when those cultures, that's the Islamic and the Christian culture started coming in, a lot of this
Abraham.
was very hard for them to understand. So they started putting things in right, wrong, good, and bad context. So it's good karma and bad karma. It's right and wrong. You go to a temple, you pray. So what did you
Hmm.
ask God for? Did you ask for something? How can you not ask? If you don't ask God, who will you ask? So you see there's a lot of things that today's Hinduism has, which has nothing to do with Sanatana Dharma. Absolutely nothing. But it's part of our culture today.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If
So I
you
get it.
Yeah, if you look at traditional Sanatan Dharma, there was no concept of covering people. There was no concept of male over female. There was
Hmm.
Ardhanareshwar. It total equality. One doesn't exist without the other, right? But now you
Was
have
LGBTQ was accepted. So you had so
up
many characters from Bharat, Ramayan. They were all, it was natural. Anything
absolutely.
natural was natural. Nothing was unnatural. No
Yes.
act was really unnatural. No person was unnatural.
Yes. Yes. It was very, very inclusive. It was so inclusive. Even if you look at Shiva, the concept of
Hmm.
his ganas, his the beasts that loved him
Both,
so much.
let's call them both things.
You're muffled. I can't hear you.
The Ganas who follow.
Yes, yes,
I said the Ganas, the ghosts and the ghouls which follow him are ugly, but they are part of him. So
yes.
if you accept Shiva, you accept everything.
Yeah. See, the concept there is again, while growing up, I've had people walk in and say, "Oh my God, why do you have a Nataraj statue at home? This will cause destruction." I've never heard something so stupid in my life, honestly. But yeah, people do have such fears. I ran into somebody who said if you have a statue of Shiva more than 10 inches or 12 inches in your house, then you're destroyed. So we need to remove all these kind of fears and these superstitions that exist. They're absolutely mindless. No one's going to destroy anyone. No one's going to judge anyone. We need to know that there is tremendous ancient science and knowledge and wisdom there for us. And that wisdom and knowledge is not about religion or God or mine or yours. It's the same as knowledge of how to cross a road or how to cook a good meal. Everyone should have it, and it should be a way of life for all of us. Me, for example, I'm a practicing yogi, so I follow a sattvic diet. I do my sadhana every day. Of course, you guys know that, but there are benefits that are unbelievable, unbelievable. Just connecting two disconnected points. To make a point here is see all these discussions we have of Sanatan Dharma, of science, of Hinduism, of anything is of no use whatsoever if you don't apply it as a lifestyle, if you don't embrace it. There is absolutely no use. I'm in the business of finance, I'm in the business of money. Every second, like if you look around my office or my home, I've got screens telling me about what's going on the markets every second. Information on its own is of no use. Knowing everything that we know of Sanatan Dharma, of sattvic diets, of yoga, and then not implementing it, that's a bigger sin than anything else. So, guys, definitely as we go further into this discussion on how's the science going to benefit you, don't stop using or getting the benefits.
Okay. So let's go to my initial point. Shiva.
Yes.
It literally means that which is not.
Yes.
And Shakti means energy. So can we relate to what Fritjot Capra has said in his article about the Shiva's dance and the subatomic particles? You know, he said his book on the Hindu view of modern physics. So he basically talks about Shiva's dance and how it relates to the dance of subatomic particles.
Yeah.
So how
You go
matter
to
and energy constantly bump into each other.
So let's go to the beginnings of the universe for this. Right? If we talk about the Big Bang is supposed to have occurred about 14 billion years ago. And the concept goes that initially there was nothing. Nothing. And this whole concept of nothing is very tough for us to figure out because our human brain is not, or rather, we haven't evolved enough to tap our hardware and software to be able to visualize nothing. So, for all our participants who are online right now, if I ask you to just close your eyes and visualize nothing, it becomes very, very difficult because the closest you'll visualize is a blank space or black or white or a zero. None of these are nothing.
Kal.
None of them are.
Kala or Kal actually also means space.
Yes, Kal is space and time.
So
it's
maybe
both.
I said the Sanskrit word Kal makes sense there. Kala. So it means space. It means time.
Yeah. See now again.
Nothingness is Kal.
Yeah, you've jumped a topic. For years, Western for years, Western physicists have thought of space and time as one, whereas we have separated them. Sorry, space and time as separate, and we have always said they're intertwined, and both are connected to each other. No, they're intertwined. So now physicists are seeing the connection, and they're beginning to realize how that affects the rest of the universe. But let's not go there because that's another huge topic. Let's come back to the
Big Bang.
So first there was nothing, and then out of nothing, suddenly there was an explosion, which we call the Big Bang. We don't know who caused it. We don't know how it was caused. We just know that it happened. Now, when it happened, the explosion was equal, of course, because it took place in nothing. There was no gravity, nothing to shape the charge, right? An equal explosion in all directions in the middle of nothing, spreading everywhere. And then slowly, as time passed by, this explosion cooled down. As it cooled down, I'm of course glossing over all the big details. I'm making it as simple as possible. So as it cools down, it turns into matter and antimatter. Wherever matter and antimatter touch each other, they explode and they destroy each other. Since the universe was an explosion in equal space with nothing to shape the explosion, matter and antimatter should have been equal. And our universe should not exist because everything should have offset each other. However, it just so happened that there was more matter than antimatter. And because there was more matter than antimatter, our universe exists today. Okay. Now, when you go to the Shiv Purans and you ask, why was there more matter than antimatter? And then you ask some physicists in the West why there was more matter than antimatter. You have people like Dr. Stephen Hawking who did this experiment with 10,000 steel ball bearings on the floors of Cambridge. And he came out with something called the bell curve, which explains why the Big Bang was not a unified equal blast and why we had more matter than antimatter. Fascinatingly, when you look at the curve, That curve is the shape of a shivling. How it
Yep.
got there, why it got there, I'm too unevolved to understand all that. But what does make sense is that if the blast was not shaped from outside, there was something inside that shaped it. It was a designed blast that went that way, right? So the universe came
Hmm.
into existence. Again, I'm cutting out many, many, many levels and layers, but I'm just trying to plug it for our conversation. Um, so now scientists are trying to recreate that Big Bang for several reasons, many, many reasons. One is, again, you mentioned time and space. So if we can create that Big Bang on our own, that means we are kind of capable of creating a universe on our own. We are probably capable of creating life on our own. We'll, if we can create the Big Bang ourselves, then we can find out, or we can shape those charges, and we can find out what was before the Big Bang. If we can find out what was before the Big Bang, then it's going to unlock many, many of uh, the universe's secrets and mysteries for us. Today, one of the immutables we talk about are time, gravity, and space. However, we know that all of these
Mhm.
are mutable and can change if it was pre Big Bang. Okay. We know
Yep.
that gravity, everything has gravity. Even atoms have gravity, electrons have gravity, protons have gravity. Everything has gravity. You have gravity, I have gravity. If that is true, why isn't the universe contracting? Why is the universe expanding? Because yeah, if everything has gravity, it should be the biggest ones pulling the smaller ones, becoming bigger and pulling more and more and more. And the universe should implode. But it's not. It's expanding even as we speak. We are all going outward, which means there is something there in the universe which is more powerful than gravity and pushing outward. Question: what is that something? Why can't we see it? Why can't we measure it? We can measure gravity, we can do math around it, we can send aircrafts to space because we
Mhm.
understand, but we can't understand that other force. We can't measure it, we can't see it, we can't tap it. So that's what we
Mhm.
call as dark energy. And dark energy, we know, is probably somewhere something to do with the origin of the universe, because that's what was there before the Big Bang. That is what is still pushing the universe outward. It's more powerful than gravity, more powerful than time, definitely older than time because it was pre Big Bang. If we can figure dark energy out, we figure almost everything else out. Okay. Now,
Okay.
given that background, given all of that background, these scientists are sitting in CERN in Switzerland, CERN, and they have spent a few $1 billion. They've created a super collider, and they're trying to make this recreate the Big Bang. The fascinating thing is, if you look at CERN, CERN is a mecca for mathematicians and physicians and all kinds of intellectuals. You can't go there and sit and say God will punish you, or this is right, that's wrong. No one's got time for any of that there. But in this mecca of intellectuals, you can Google this or look it up on YouTube. There is a 2.5 meter tall statue of Shiva at the very
Oh.
entrance of CERN. And then you ask, what is an ancient Indian or a Hindu god doing in CERN? Fascinatingly, again, this is, I can't state this for fact, but I've read in many, many places and I've been told that um, if you look at our Natraj, you can Google this again. There
Mhm.
are 108 poses of Natraj, which are timeless. They've
Yeah.
been years and years and years. These poses, when you look at closely, they mimic and they are descriptions of the movements of subatomic particles, and which is insane. I mean, showing it as a dance. one coincidence, two coincidences, okay. 108 freaking coincidences. That's
108
absurd. That's absurd. So yes,
and
there's
108
endless
is
physics.
a 108 is an interesting number in Sanatana Dharma, but that's another topic.
Oh my God, we need at least a week for that.
We'll do another. We'll do another session for that. Let's stick to this time.
So now if you take Shiva as dark energy, even dark energy in very simple terms can be defined as that which is not. You take Shiva as dark energy, the oldest, the most, should I say, core energy of the universe that's all pervasive. It's everywhere. It just exists. It has no concept of time. It's whether it's present, past, future, it's just there, right? It's not even in the air like we are feeling it. It's beyond that. It's at a much, much deeper level, much deeper. It's like the fabric of our universe is, you could probably call as dark energy. If that's true, I mean, taking that as true, you then go to Mata. That is the equal half of Shiva. I'd like to mention here that I'm a total hardcore Shiva lover and a Shiva devotee, but I'd also like to mention that Shiva is not necessarily always male. It can be both, because Shiva is beyond gender. There's no concept of gender. So if we have to take this concept of something beyond gender and break it down for our understanding, then we can break the dark energy side into a male form, and the
Dark
matter side, that is the Mata, the female form, into this. So dark matter here, as we talk about it, is not, we're still figuring this out. Okay, so I'm not some physicist who knows his stuff. We're just figuring this out. Is one half is non-physical energy, that's like a consciousness. It's the non-material part of the universe. And the other half is the actual physical side of the universe, the one which is material, which you can touch, which you can feel, where there are emotions, there's movement. That is Mata. That's also the female energy. That's also the one that is kinder, the more forgiving, the more creative one. Interesting stuff there.
Okay, you spoke about the Big Bang. Then wouldn't it be better to go with the theory of what is now called the Big Bounce, because that's sort of fits with our Sanatani concept a lot better. We believe that there was no end and there was no starting, and its universes are cyclical. So what is happening today has already happened before. And so the Big Bounce is a variation of the Big Bang, where they say before the Big Bang, before there was nothing, there was another universe like this, which collapsed into nothingness. And then it restarted. So it was, again, probably the dance of Shiva, or Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, whatever you want to take it. So Hindu cosmology or Sanatani cosmology and current Big Bounce theory, they just fit absolutely together.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is just semantics. Big Bounce is nothing different from the Big Bang. The Big Bang never said that just one. The Big Bang goes into detail on what happens in a bang. And the Big Bounce that we're talking about just assumes that there are more and goes beyond. So there's no difference to the two. It's just semantics. Personally, I like to stick with the Big Bang because it gives you details. It talks about up quarks, down quarks, what's happening. You know, I mean, you'll get into a lot of detail in the Big Bang. And then all you need to do is keep in mind that the definition of universe is not something which is beyond imagination. It's just those things which don't exist in your reality, or which do exist. That is enough to define as your universe. So yes, you can have multiverses coexisting. You can have universes coming and going even as we speak, for sure. And yes, Hinduism has always said that time is cyclical.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very important difference, because in the West, there is a belief that time is linear. and it's going in a straight line, whereas we believe in a circle.
Cycle.
And yes, the circle makes more sense to me personally, because even when you take a shorter duration of time, you don't take like 5 million years or 14 billion years, but you even take a 5-year span, or you even take a 24-hour span, you will find repetition is there at even the smallest levels. Even a 24-hour loop is a loop. So looping is part of the fabric, it's part of the construct of our universe. So looking at time as a loop makes perfect sense.
Okay. So I think I'm done with my questions. Let's take some audience questions. And
Sure.
Akshay, he had an interesting,
Sorry, go ahead.
Akshay had an interesting question. He says, what is the significance of Nataraja? I used to think it represents life force or Shakti.
So Nataraja is, thank you, brilliant question. It's not an image that people imagine that someone's dancing. It's a whole concept, including a process inside it. Okay. So in Sanatana Dharma, we talk about the universe and time being cyclical. We also talk about everything. See now, again, this is a difference in Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma and West and East. In the West, you have birth and you have death. They're two different things. They're very often viewed as good and bad also. One is good and one is bad. One is dark, one is bright. For us, death and life are part of one. They cannot exist without the other. So when there is death, there will be life. And when there is life, there will be death. So we have this whole line written in, I think it's the Skand Purana, where we say that wherever there is death, there has to be life. It cannot exist without each other. So we don't have this concept of one being right, one being wrong. And if you look at Shiva, since there are so many mentions of him living in cemeteries, dancing with human ash covered on him, again, the whole concept here is don't get too tied up here. Don't get too attached to what's going on here, because you have to transcend this. And the constant reminder is that all of the things that you are seeing here in this life are fleeting. Don't get too attached. Don't believe that this is actually who you are. This is just fleeting. It's just fleeting. For us, we do not have a concept that you're here and right now someone's watching you, someone's watching me as I speak to you, and they're making notes and they say, holy shit, he said a bad word. Fuck him. Oh, he said that. Now throw him even more, right? So we don't have that. And then you go up and you stand in a line and someone looks at you and says, oh, this is what you did. Shit, you passed this comment on so and so. How could you? You're screwed. You did this and you're judged. It doesn't exist like that for us. There's no right, wrong, good, bad, nothing. It's a journey, it's life, and we provide the tools to go through that. We also have a concept that this is fleeting. So this might take a little while, but it's a very, very interesting concept on which Sanatana Dharma is based. The example I'm going to use is not based on any of our books, but it makes perfect sense. Okay? Think of this way. With all this COVID and all this pressure going on, people are trying to get themselves some mental relief. So someone invents a tablet. You have that tablet and you dream at night, a dream of your choice, anything you want. And the dream feels 100% real. But when it's morning, the tablet wears off, you wake up and you're totally yourself, you go ahead with your life. So what happens if this tablet is freely available? If this tablet becomes freely available, here's what I think will happen. We would all go and buy that tablet. Each and every one of us would start having it day or night whenever we can. And we would start fulfilling all our fantasies. You name your fantasy. Someone might have some money fantasy, fame fantasy, sex fantasy. You will fulfill every fantasy you have. But then what happens after, say, a year of dreaming? You fulfilled every fantasy you've had. You've been the billionaire, you've been the crazy guy, you've done everything. Now what? Actually, you're going to start getting a little bored. Then you want some more excitement. You've already fulfilled everything you have. So you say, let me try some stunts. Let me do bungee jumping today. I would never do that in real life. I can bungee jump today and see how it feels. Or you say, let me just dream of how it'll be if I'm taken hostage somewhere, or if I'm hungry. So you start exploring other areas. And then just like you go for a roller coaster ride where you get so thrilled and horrified that you want to go back again, like that, you start having these other dreams where you say, okay, today, Manoj, you decide what dream you're going to give me, and I'm in. Just make sure I don't get hurt. Okay. So we start doing this kind of creative stuff. And pretty soon, because by then our society is advanced and we're doing well, so we are just seeking thrills. So you reach a point of time where you say, okay, tonight I'm going to have a dream where I am living in Africa 900 years back when there were wild animals and crazy things happening. And I want to be this fierce hunter who's hunting them. And in one dream, things go crazy and a lion winds up eating me up. You say, holy shit, that was terrible, but now I'm awake and it's over. And I want to try it again. So similarly, we start giving ourselves experiences just to feel all those sensations. It's the same as people paying money to watch horror films. You will pay money, watch a horror film just with the intent of horrifying yourself. I've never understood that, but I know it's a big thing. It's an emotion that needs to get satisfied. So, similarly, if you take our race advanced to a level where you don't have to worry too much about these physical and these materialistic things, then yes, your mind is going to go to these places. So the concept that we have is that you are not just Manoj. I'm not just Vinod. We are much more than this. We are larger. We are probably not even just these beings. But for whatever reason, we've popped that tablet and we are in this dream. And in this dream, you are Manoj, and you right now given yourself COVID, and
Yeah,
that's a
I
lot
have
of pressure.
that.
There's a lot of pressure. And Manoj, I'm sure you'll get through this very soon, but of course you have our prayers with you. And so you have chosen this dream wherein this is all these unimaginable things happen to you and you're faced with all these challenges.
Yeah.
And once the dream gets over, you'll wake up and say, wow, that was a good ride. So we say, don't get attached. This is fleeting. Whatever you're going through, this is Maya. This is fleeting. There is
Okay.
no concept of someone who's going to judge you after this, but remember that this is fleeting. Don't get too attached. And if you're worrying about morality, right, wrong, ethics, how will someone be uh, under control if there is no good and bad, and if there's no punishment for all evil thoughts and crap like that? Karma. Karma will make you responsible.
We'll take care of everything.
Of course, karma will make you responsible. Fascinatingly, India being the one country that's followed karma, we don't attack others, we don't destroy others, but we are doing brilliantly well economically.
Yep. Now, I think we have time for just one quick question. It's from Puneet. His question is, it's written in the Brahma Samhita that origin of material creation is Mahavishnu, and when Mahavishnu inhales, millions of universes are destroyed at the same time, and when he exhales, millions of universes are generated. What do you think about this statement?
It's a very, very deep statement, and it needs to be understood in context. When we look at the Shiv Purans, or if you look at even the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, there are reference to Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is referred to as Adi Manav.
Yeah.
So, and when you read the Shiv Puran, you'll find it makes perfect sense because both complement each other. The way it goes is that first there was nothing, then the Big Bang happened. And the Big Bang, by definition of its fabric, has Shiva in it because he or she is the non-physical energy that is everywhere. But that's strictly non-physical. It was Vishnu who was the first one to take form. So while Shiva, devotees and followers like me say that Shiva created Vishnu and Vishnu came out, the fact remains that Vishnu was the first who took form. Okay. Then Brahma took form after him. Shiva was still formless. And then when Shiva did take form, when Shiva did take form, he took form in a male form, not as complete Shiva. Because Shiva had removed the female or the productive, the divine, the Shakti energy, and gifted it to Brahma to create life. So first there was Shiva who created the universe, but divided himself or herself to create. Vishnu took form, was the first Adi Manav, the first person to have physical form, absolutely. From that came Brahma. And then from Brahma, Vishnu together schemed and put Mata, the Shakti Mata's energy into Daksha's daughter, who was born as Sati.
Okay.
So yes, I totally agree with what was said there. And about the universes being created or destroyed, again, I agree with that. Okay, let's take a look at CERN in Switzerland. Let's assume that somehow we crack this thing of the Big Bang, and our guys realize that, oh, this is how you make a universe. Boom, you press this button and we've made a universe. Now, as we are talking, we are creating universes, but we have no influence on them because they exist in other dimensions. So what's the use of creating these universes that we can't see, we can't touch, we can't influence? We can't do anything with it. So this is again going into a little bit of science fiction, but our Puranas are full of science fiction. So there are stories in the Shiv Purans of spaceships and people moving planets and having to align 3 planets in a row if you have to kill someone. It's like science thrillers, literally brilliant stuff. Sorry, I got lost. I lost my thread.
You were on Mahavishnu's universes.
Oh yeah, so these universes, if we are creating them and we have no influence, they're of no use. So let's assume that at some point our science, with people like Elon Musk and the others, grows to an extent where we manage to extract our consciousness and either trap it or move it as a non-physical.
Yeah.
So if, let's say I was this leading scientist, here's what I would do. We've learned how to create the Big Bang. We've learned how to create universes. We have to get into those universes and influence them. So if I can't get through in physical form, I can't send sofas and chairs and send my chai buckets and all. I'll probably create a consciousness, which is maybe an AI, maybe it's an artificial intelligence, maybe it's a evolved consciousness, a consciousness which has synthesized all the knowledge of our society, everything that we know in terms of technology, history, blah, 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 everything that we know, upload it and send it in as a consciousness, as a software, as an upload, and send it into that universe. When you send it into that universe, since there is no place for it to be held in that universe, it's the consciousness is pervasive. It's just part of the fabric of that universe. It's the knowledge, it's the awareness of our entire 20, 30,000 years of our civilization that we put. So that's probably the closest definition or the closest I could come to understanding the concept of Shiva. That somebody in some sun somewhere created a Big Bang and they sent across this energy, which was part of the creation of the universe, which exists in the fabric. It's a knowledge, it's an awareness, it's an energy. If you and I, if our minds are right, if we are well focused, if you meditate right, if things are good, you can tap into that energy. And if you tap into it, you will get a lot of downloads, you will get information, you will get solutions. More importantly, you can reach to things that you are not obviously connected to.
Okay, so the internet of spirituality.
Yeah, I'm talking about like it's like a string, like the string theory, but you can influence, like the butterfly effect. You can actually influence people, situations, issues around you by influencing the energies, because it's all in the fabric of the universe and we are all connected.
Everybody's connected. That's true.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great session. I think we can wind up now. It's
Manoj. Manoj,
yeah.
we still have a few. We still have a few more questions. So if Vinod G doesn't mind, we can still carry on a bit because we started a bit late anyway.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see what other questions are there. Okay, there's one which is simple. That's from my brother. Can you please recommend an authentic translation of the original Shiv Puran? Something that can be easily understood.
No, I can't. Please learn Sanskrit and read the book. Seriously, I mean this. I genuinely mean this, because there's so many things you learn. Okay, now here's this thing I have to share. There is a Panditji who I have a lot of respect for. This guy's from Ujjain, okay? He's part of our Shiva group, and you'll see him there. Amazing guy. So once I had invited him to Bombay to do some rituals, and I sent my car to pick him up. So he came home, and we were sitting, and he said, "Saab, don't mind, but I put off the mantras in your car." So here's what happened. When I send my driver to pick him up, my car always has mantras going on. So Panditji got into the car and he said, "Band karo ye." So I asked him, why? Why would you put it off? So he says, "Sahab, I had not had bath. I had just traveled so much. It was afternoon. My mind was somewhere else. And there's Shiva bhajans going on. So it doesn't make sense. And besides, bhajans should never be said out loud. Mantras and bhajans should never be said out loud." So I said,
but I thought mantras were supposed to be loud.
Exactly. So I said, wait a minute. Now we have a gap. What do you mean mantras are not supposed to be said out loud? And he says, "Saab, nahi. You should be able to say your 108 mantras, whichever mantra you're doing. And person should not even see your Adam's apple move. That is the secret." So I said, no, it's about phonetics. It's about sound. You have to say it. That's when it has effect. Now, here's where we had disparity. Okay, I follow a lot of things that make sense to me. And he's a person I have respect for, who comes from a lineage of thousands of years of knowledge, but I can't accept what he's saying. It makes no sense. So I got down to doing some research. And it turns out that where he lived in MP, since he was from that lineage, when the Mughals took over, they were telling people, convert or die. So, and all ancient books were burnt. Strangely, in our history, we are taught that Hindus didn't write things, they transferred everything by word of mouth. That's not true. We had agamas, we had millions of good books, hundreds of them, but they were burnt, which happens whenever there's a conquering race. We had, I'm sorry, I again lost track of where we were.
We were talking about books, and you were talking about the Pandit who was talking about non-vocalizing his mantras.
What happened? Sorry.
Not vocalizing the mantra.
So the Mughals had told all these guys to line up, and anyone who was showing any signs like having bhasma here or something, yeah, all these guys were killed, burnt, chopped apart. So these Pandits, they had to learn all the books that were burned, know all of them by heart, and transfer it down generation to generation without your conquerors knowing that you're doing it. So for hundreds of years, these guys have mastered the art of being able to say everything without even moving anything. So yeah, this part, this is Hinduism, that is today. But the original, that's completely different. Because Sanatanis didn't have to worry about any of those kind of realities. So that's why I don't go for translations, because you'll find people giving you stuff like this, like don't talk, or calling Ganga as a river, or calling Shrap as a curse. That's why I'm not very pro translations.
Okay, there's one more question we can take. It's by Kshitij Chauhan. He says, when you say Shiva is dark energy, would you say Parvati or Mata is dark matter or antimatter, or is it tangible matter?
I didn't hear the last one. Is it what matter?
He's saying, I'll just repeat it. When you say Shiva is dark energy, would you say Parvati or Mata is dark matter or antimatter or tangible matter?
I would not say antimatter for sure. Definitely not antimatter. Dark energy, yes. Sorry, dark matter, yes. Tangible matter, yes. It's just a concept of non-physical and physical. And also you must remember that one needs the other to have any sense of identity or to have any sense of existence.
Yeah, you need a balance. Okay. I think that's all. It's been a great session. So thanks a lot, Vinod. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I think I love this session. I hope the audience did too. So we should have one in the next couple of months again.
Sure.
So,
anytime.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching. Namaste.
Thank you, Vinodji.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.